Good morning and welcome to our, what month is it, May, Community Board meeting. I'd like to welcome you all here. I do have apologies from Jeremy Lomas. Unfortunately, he's having some IT issues and can't dial into the call. Do we need to? Can I have a mover, please? Seconded by Delhi. All those in favour? Aye. Opposed? None. Carried. And that will take us to our public forum. And I have Richard Better here from St John.
Great.
Would you like to join us?
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. Just a reminder, you've got 5 seats on the board.
Absolutely. So just a quick overview from St John first. Some of the initiatives that we've been undertaking, just to give you sort of an idea. We're running the mental health courses over the last 2 years and just successfully ran another 2 courses a couple of weeks ago, which were well received. Everyone finds them quite very, very good. And we do that free of charge. So people, there's no restriction on anybody trying to get into it. Obviously, the op shop is our key supplier of funds to St John locally, and we use that for funding the shuttle service that we're now running, which we've successfully run 200 patients around to Waikato or to Thames. And again, it's just another service alongside all the other services that are trying to provide, something towards helping the public moving forward. AEDs into the public areas, we're trying to facilitate that. So we've just sent one to the men's shed, one out to the bike park. We put some around town by the library, out by the wall, and they're all in lock boxes outside so that people can access them a lot easier rather than having them behind closed doors. And so we're endeavouring to do more of that to try and get businesses to bring their AEDs out to the front door, which will support by supplying the boxes free of charge. And also alongside that, we're running the 3 Steps for Life course free of charge to try and get people to understand how to use an AED. So if anyone's interested, sign up. And finally, really is what I've presented. 2 things. One is I've just given you one of these. This is again another initiative by the op shop, given out free of charge to anybody. It's a great little record book that you can fill in, put on your fridge. And if you were like me the other day that ended up in a helicopter, you could say all my information's in the book, just grab it. Because when you're not really feeling 100%, the hardest thing to do is to try and remember what drugs are you on, when was the last time you had this incident. So these have been well received, and it was originally initiated by the Thames group, and we've picked it up and we give these out again, all funded by the op shop. But they're great, so I've given you one each to take away. If you want some more, come and grab them from the op shop. But again, just another little thing just to try and help community health. Our big project is the ambulance station. So I've just put in front of you the proposed plan for the station. So what's highlighted in yellow is the addition to the building. So down the left-hand side of the station is the new storage facilities, locker rooms, more toilet facilities, drug safes, areas for oxygen bottles, etc., deliveries by couriers, etc. On the right-hand side is the new sort of like community training room space for our community services to run out of, because we don't have anywhere for the shuttle drivers to come in and out of, to use for putting their stuff in, running our courses out of, helping the operational staff running their courses. And there's a distinct difference between operations and public. So operations are wanting us to stay out of the actual station because there's too much stuff going inside there for Joe Public to just walk in. So creating the room, which is a freestanding building off to one side, which will be behind the car park of the St John station, is going to be used predominantly for public access and anything that we need to do with the public. So running the mental health courses, running the 3 Steps for Life, anyone else that might need to use it, the shuttle drivers and anything else that's happening along the way. And then the area in purple is the redevelopment internally. Because we're a growing area, we're needing to bring more bedroom space into the station. At the moment, we only sleep 2 people. Now we need to sleep 4. So we've reconfigured that a little bit, created another office space separate for their own training. And so that's a reconfiguration. Originally, we sort of budgeted around 650, but as we all know, building costs are going up. So we're around the 800 mark, I think. Probably a little bit more. My understanding at the moment is that we need to get some sort of a sign off from community board to go to the council because it's on council land on a people rent. So I'm sort of asking if we can. So I have to apologise. I never realised that was one of the restraints that we had, but we've been working on this project for 3 years. Since we finished Hahe Station, there was always the intent to bring more accommodation to Whitianga. And once we finished the Hahe Station, we always intended to build a separate building standalone to create summer procurement staff accommodation, etc. And then it's sort of grown legs because the whole place has grown so fast that they need now more facility within the station. So it sort of changed. And now we've got to this stage. So this is sort of phase 3 for us, but we're sort of about 2 years behind now. So yeah, so we're sort of asking if we can get some speed on agreement that's acceptable, and sort of so we can keep moving on. So St. John, I've just given Murray a letter some email trail of just what we've been talking to through our national property group from St. John to TCDC, just so that we've, to try and get some confirmation, how we get our confirmation and say maybe a 3-month delay before we can get a sign off. St. John won't do anything until we get a sign off from TCDC.
So just a point of clarity, you're just asking for the appropriate use of the space, not for funding.
Not for funding, no.
Okay, all right.
We had enough funding now because the prices are jumping up. We're starting to need to look for some more funding, but we think we can secure that easily considering we've got 90% of it.
Okay.
So we've been fundraising the whole way through.
Yeah.
So we've got in excess of $700,000.
Okay.
So,
Murray and then Tony, questions?
Richard, in terms of growth of the town, how long do you see this site lasting? Do you think being good for another 10 to 15 years?
oh, look, there's been a lot of debate about even where it's sited.
Yep.
They feel it's different opinions from different people. It was a perfect station 10, 15 years ago because it was right beside State Highway 25. Now we're in the middle of the town.
Yeah.
And realistically, maybe in 20 or 30 years' time, it needs to move out onto the main.
And why I'm asking the question, and it's possibly still there, should land be made available, say out where the helicopter is, for the future?
Mm-hmm.
Should it something we really look at now as a community board and put, an acre of land aside or something? Because I'm sure we could probably still put that in.
That would still be very much worth consideration because as the town keeps growing, at the moment, this is the need now.
Yeah,
definitely. And to be honest, when they brought in the double crewing, it instantly jumped the bed space needed. Of course, they cope with everything that's there at the moment, but the next step is a brand new station.
I was going to say, for my toughest with, I don't think this will last 10 years.
No, yeah.
So it's something we can discuss.
We will need to take this discussion offline. Did you have a question?
Yeah, mine was along the same lines, but with this here, how likely is this going to be transportable? Because my business is about Murray, and I thought, well,
Yeah.
that's okay for 10 years, but if you're going to spend that money in 10 years' time, stick bulldozers through it, maybe it's a better option.
The secondary building for the public use is definitely going to be transportable. So we're going to build that on hold so we can pick it up and move it away. In fact, we almost thought about getting them transportable in to make it simplistic. But again, we haven't even gone down that track.
Yeah.
It's quite tricky because the station at the moment runs with 2 ambulances running every day, plus a third one is the backup for volunteer ambulance staff. And we've got 1 bay there, so we've technically got a little bit of space still in there. From the rest of it, it's very tricky trying to manoeuvre through, I'll say this carefully, manoeuvre through the St John property group. You know, it would take a huge amount of time to even consider looking at another station in another area. But if land was put aside and you know, in 10 years' time, we can consider that, then that's certainly worthy of some consideration for the future.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Oh, sorry, we've got one last question.
Have had excellent feedback from people who attended the mental health first aid course, but also some feedback about could there be one on Saturday?
Okay, yes, and we've got another course coming up. We've actually got first aid courses coming up as well, which are going to be free to the public. And one's for children, young toddler courses, so that's going to be run on a Saturday. It's a half-day course.
Yeah.
So that's going to be publicised over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
So people who are working were disappointed that they couldn't get to those two because they were weekdays.
Sure. Okay, no, I'm definitely going to give that consideration.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you. Appreciate the update, and we will be in touch.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Right. Was there anyone else here for public forum?
I'm not sure who this lady was. I'm Pauline Stewart, the new owner of the platform. Oh,
Nice to meet you. Welcome.
nice to meet you.
Thank you.
So we've got Hadley,
Yes.
and we've got Vodafone on the line.
Okay. Are they there?
Yes.
They are. All right. Let's go with our presented order of, sorry, Hadley. Let's do this.
Yep.
Morning, Lisa.
Morena,
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for giving us some time to talk to you this morning. This is my colleague, I hope you can see him. Paul Kingham is my colleague. I am the Community Relations Manager for Vodafone and Paul is the Site Acquisition Manager. I realise we have pretty limited time, so I apologise if it appears like we're rushing. We're just trying to get the information to you in a short space of time. I'm going to share a presentation with you now. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. Share the screen. Excuse me. All right. So can you see?
Yes. Yeah.
I'll just make sure you're actually seeing the presentation. Fantastic. Okay, so what we've come to talk to you about is the program that we're rolling out in the Thames Coromandel area. So Vodafone at the moment is undertaking a massive network investment program. Where basically we have the largest 5G network in Aotearoa, but we're expanding that more and we are targeting regional New Zealand. So over the next 2 to 3 years, we are upgrading or building 800 new cell sites. This work actually started a year ago, right in the middle of COVID, and we've already rolled out our network upgrades into Manawatu, Wanganui, King Country, Bay of Plenty, Waiariki, Canterbury and Taranaki. And the Coromandel region is our next cab off the rank. We're scheduled for a late 2022 start and our aim is to finish in 2023. So far, despite COVID, we've managed to stay on track and we've built at least 100 new sites and upgraded many more, which is a really big undertaking and actually a really big achievement for us given what we've been dealing with COVID lockdowns and actually trying to get this program, keep it on track. It generally takes about 6 to 12 months to plan, design and build an individual site, which is why we start talking to the community boards quite a bit in advance of when we intend to start building. We're working with the local communities through district councils and community boards to ensure that we put the cell sites in the best possible locations. So This is just, and by the way, Donna has a copy of this presentation to email to you afterwards as well. It just gives you a bit of an idea of what we're rolling out and the numbers that we're looking at. So I won't go through this slide, just something for you to have a look at. The one slide I did want to share really briefly is this slide, which is our traffic growth over the Christmas holiday period. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but if you look there, you'll see that the Coromandel single-handedly experienced over 100% increase in traffic growth on our mobile network. In fact, it's the standout for New Zealand if you have a look there. I'm sure I don't need to tell you why that is, given that you're the #1 holiday hotspot, I think, for Aucklanders. So what are we doing in your region? We're building new sites in 8 locations. And those sites are required for coverage, but mostly for capacity. And that last slide I showed you shows what we're kind of dealing with at certain times of the year around capacity. Capacity is stretched at a normal time without adding the holiday period into it. So the new locations we're looking at are Kopu, Hikuai, and we're looking to do a Spark co-location there, Coromandel Town, Thames, Whitianga, Tairua, Pawanui and Whangamata. And obviously for you guys, Whitianga is what we wanted to have a talk to you about today. I'm just going to introduce Paul now because Paul is acquiring the site and he'll just talk you through some of the coverage maps we've got and what we've been looking at.
Morning, everyone. So the slide that Lisa's got up now essentially shows the current Vodafone coverage in Whitianga. Orange is good and yellow is bad. So the area we're targeting is sort of just to the west of the airport and the industrial and sort of new residential area along the main South Highway. Lisa, if you get the next slide. Are you able to enlarge the slides, Lisa, that's showing the preview of the next slide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Okay, so if you can see it there, the red outline is the search area that our RF engineers gave us as the sort of ideal location for them to put the equipment. The idea with a cell phone tower is it has 3 sort of sectors, ideally 120 degrees apart. So if you can put the tower in the middle of the area you're trying to coverage, you'll have an antenna or a set of antenna covering each 120 degree sector, so you can get sort of not only best bang for your buck, but you can get the most efficient use of the infrastructure. So we had a good look around this area. We looked to the north of the search area on the other side of the highway there as well. One of the issues we sort of had to avoid, there's a clearance area at each end of the runway that we obviously don't want to put a tower in. So we looked up to the north, but unfortunately when we went up in that sort of area, we only sort of were getting one sector pointing back to the area we were trying to cover and had sort of 1 or 2 other sectors that weren't really going to do much. So we came back down and looked through the area to the south. We approached Spark about seeing if we could go on their existing tower that they built a couple of years ago. But unfortunately, with their future plans for what they need to put on that, there wasn't capacity structurally for us to also put our equipment on there. So we spoke to a number of landowners. Space is at a bit of a premium there, so we struggled to find anywhere with space for a long-term lease. And at the end of the day, our preferred location is a new pole in the road adjacent to the entrance to the refuse station. There's quite a deep road verge there. It borders on industrial properties. And Lisa, if you go to the next slide, that's the coverage map that we're predicting once that goes in. So that's just sort of that orange blob to the left is all new coverage. And if you go to the next slide, Lisa, the other benefit of this location, it means is we can put in a reasonably visually unobtrusive sort of tower. So it's a 15-meter sort of slimline pole with mainly shrouded antenna and some radio equipment below. That photo there is an example of one we recently installed in Bowen Town, which is the same design as what and height as what we'd be proposing for Whitianga. We had a property consultant helping us in the area, and he's already made an initial approach to, I think it was Ed Varley who's on the call, and his team, just to get initial feedback of the location. We've chosen from a roading point of view, and the initial sort of opinion was it won't have any detrimental effect on the roading network. So on this basis, that's our preferred location, and I guess we're just looking for any feedback from the community board if we're in the right spot, or if there's any thing we haven't considered that we should, before we sort of go ahead with the next stage. And the next stage would be to get some plans drawn up, get a survey done, put a formal notification of our intention to do works on the road to the council, and also to apply for a controlled activity resource consent. The structure we're proposing is within the permitted rules of the district plan.
Do you do any community consultation as part of
Yeah.
that?
So
I can answer that, Paul, if
Yeah,
that's okay. Yeah. So we don't do community consultation. We do community engagement. So part of our process is under the guidelines of the Telecommunications Forum, which is once we identify a location and we're going to submit some plans to council, we write to the neighbouring properties and tell them of our intentions, and they then have an opportunity to provide feedback to us. So generally our engagement is through community boards, and what we found is that some of the community boards we're working with prefer to do their own consultation. That's their choice, and we provide them what they would like to do that. We generally, with most of our sites, haven't had too many issues using the community board process. We tend to get a lot of feedback. Community boards tend to be talking to their communities. So if there are any issues that are rearing their heads, we tend to hear it through the community board. We've had a couple of sites that haven't gone that way, where we've had support by a community board, but a small group within the community that doesn't want a cell site and are not interested in improving digital connectivity and have some fears around health and safety. We try to address those, but we don't. Sometimes we just have to make a decision about what we're going to do.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So any feedback on that location? That was sort of, is there anything you'd like us to know about that location?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head in terms of that location.
Okay.
Well, for my part, I think it's ideal. It's an industrial area. There's minimal impact on anything residential. And at the end of the day, if people want to live in the digital world, they need this technology. And so I would have some thoughts on whether a community board does the consultation. It's not our project, but I'd say for my part, I'd be supportive of what you're doing, and for the knowledge I have of that area, I'd be supportive of that area. I'm also mindful there'll be some people that won't want anything to do with any form of technology, especially if it's 5G. I appreciate their opinions, but at the end of the day, life's going to, people want to move around in digital controlled vehicles and planes and medicine, they're going to have it. Otherwise, so for me, I'm supportive of it, and I think the location is fine.
Okay. Well, what we can do is you'll have this presentation. So if there's any feedback that you want to provide to us by email, Donna's got my email as well. As we go, we're only just at the start of this process, so we've got some more work to do at council. We've got to draw some more plans up. So as we go through acquiring, we'll just keep you informed. And if there is any point where you feel like you require us to do something additional to what we're doing, then we're happy to have that conversation. We don't have one set thing that we do with every community board. We talk to community boards and try to, I guess, tailor what we're doing to how they would perhaps like engagement done.
Could I just suggest, we've got local media in this meeting right now.
Yep.
And so I suspect this could be almost on the front page of the local paper next Tuesday. So I think that there's a need to immediately get to the local paper.
Mhm.
And to put the broad guidelines out where, by and large, it's to improve digital communication and everything that goes with it. And that you do have some preferred sites and, where that is at the moment. And it's a process to go through because these things, they start to go out through the grapevine.
Yes.
I don't have to tell you what the issues are after that. So I'd only encourage that to happen. So we start that process now rather than and have us driving it rather than outside of this organisation. So that's what that's worth.
Yeah, I can't see any way that we're going to be driving their project at all. So
No,
I'm sure they have
absolutely.
their processes and we'll follow them.
Yeah,
Get on with it.
it's, exactly.
We
Okay.
we can respond after we've seen the presentation and have time to discuss.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your
Okay.
time.
Thanks. Right, Headley, welcome.
Thank you very much. I've also got Megan Nunn, our marketing manager, here with you. If you haven't put a face to a name with a mask on.
Oh, yeah.
I have sent a presentation to be put up.
Yep.
Trying to do it.
I've got it here.
So Megan, while that's being loaded, Megan and I are over here today to meet up with our other colleague, Cara Jordan, who's our company administrator and also leading our destination management approach. For those of you who may have met Whitney Steele, I know some of you have, our previous project manager, unfortunately she got snapped up by Xero and we just could not compete with Xero. So Cara has actually done economic development strategies in South Africa and South America. So she's very well versed in this kind of detail. Anyway, it's a very short presentation and it's more of a courtesy call really to let you know what we're about to get into. So you can see a little infographic on the title page there, and that's just basically a timeline that goes through the inception right through to the adoption phase of their destination management plan. And the adoption phase is all of us holding hands, hopefully, the Tahi spirit. We're all in unity, because this is not about marketing per se. Destination Correspondence is evolving into a destination management organisation where previously we've been focused purely on marketing. So the next slide just gives you a little overview of what destination management is. Sorry, the text isn't too big, but effectively what we're going through now is a design process. So we are the architects of the future tourism experience in Hauraki Coromandel. And this is why we are coming out to the communities, and we're starting with the likes of Mana Whenua, and any other community touch point that we can get hold of. So through the community boards, whether it's sectors like the arts group and so on, to understand what the priorities are for different peoples, all the challenges and opportunities. So the next slide indicates the phase that we've been through already, which is 2 surveys that have been completed with the help of New Zealand Tourism Research Institute. And they have done a business survey and a community survey. And we've had a fairly good response, and to Whitney's credit, when she was here, she also identified that Mana Whenua residing outside of the region should be included, as well as absentee holiday homeowners, which we always include anyway. So we've got some insights there. We've also got perception research, so the more qualitative based research, and Megan's been doing a lot of work in this space. Because we always do with our marketing anyway, and you'll see here that the Good For Yourself brand resonates very highly That's just one small example of what we do, or some of the research that we've got through that isn't just about the numbers. So the next slide, please. So here's just a very quick snapshot of some of the feedback that's coming through. And it will be no surprise to many that the environment is coming out really strongly right across the board throughout the whole region. And challenges that relate to this, such as infrastructure, waste management, and so on. It's all sort of tied in together. And I guess it opens everybody's eyes in terms of the approach of destination management, how we're evolving out of a marketing space, and how we have to treat what we do going forward. But when we do start consulting more specifically with the individual groups, we will be trying to dig a little deeper into some of the challenges and opportunities, not just at a regional level, and certainly not at a national level, but also at a community level as well, because places like Whitianga and Mercury Bay are destinations in themselves. Next slide, please. And this is some of the other feedback in terms of what the community said. And again, I've mentioned it that the environment, sustainability, and a great place to live and work is to the top of the list. And I actually went back and read the strategy for tourism Coromandel, which was set up 30 years ago. And those three key points are not too dissimilar to the feedback that we're getting from the community now. So we've got that message pretty loud and clear, which wasn't really surprising either. And the next slide, please. So this is a continuum that reflects the perceptions of how local communities feel about tourism. And I have to say that overall it's fairly positive, but when we do break it down to, or squeeze it into those communities that are more appreciative, I guess, of the impacts of tourism, positive and negative, there are some pressure points around Hotwater Beach, Hahei, Matarangi Gorge, and they are some of our most iconic spots. Versus Idor and Hauraki Plains that would like to see more activity. And the next slide, please. So yeah, this is the next steps, our town community workshops, and we've also compiled a list of one-on-one interviews that we'll be performing with an independent company called Versus, based out of Hamilton. They've done work with other regions such as Hamilton, Waikato in this sort of space. And we're looking at this stage in early June, but we'll come out to the community board and others with a date that will lock in very soon. And we would obviously love to have strong input from the community board members, and hope to see you guys heavily involved in this process. And we're trying to keep it simple. For everybody's sake, because there's a mountain of work to get through, and not over consult either. So that's it in a nutshell. Some of you might have seen yesterday, we just released an industry newsletter. If you haven't, you'll see comms coming out soon about a sustainability program that we are doing. So while we have the destination management plan development in motion, we are actually working through other initiatives courtesy of the central government post-COVID fund on activity that we know that the tourism industry and community want to see. The sustainability program is one of those. And as we hope to see with the DMP, we've actually got tangible actions. So we're not going to go back 30 years and look at another report at the bottom of the drawer. Hopefully in 30 years, we'll see that the Coromandel is thriving with kiwi and biodiversity. That's one of our sustainability actions. Trying to get away from single-use coffee cups is another one. And that's just talking about the waste and so on that's been touched on. And getting back into good habits, so energy usage. At the end of the day, switching off all our components and getting our visitors to do it as well. If you walk out of a accommodation place, switching your lights off, or if you're finished at the end of your work for the day, switching your computer off at the wall, things like that. I won't go too much into that.
Sounds great.
But we are trying to take action on these initiatives, and the DMP will look to do the same. Yeah, any questions?
Questions?
I've got both comments actually. So for me, for Mercury Bay, for a tourism thing, the biggest thing on our horizon is probably the development of the Esplanade and tidying up how we deal with the marine tourism, because that's what the majority of it is about. The next thing is, so it's great that people encourage visitors and tourists, but when it comes to getting funding, this is based on how many people are here on census night. And so the sort of help we need from organisations such as yours and aligned ones is to try and instill some sense into a government, no matter which government, because they've all been as bad as one another, in terms of we have to cater for our not only our non-residents, but for our visitors. So we know our population over doubles over holiday season. We know those are getting bigger. And so the burden sits, if you take Whitianga, sits on 8,000 properties to provide infrastructure for 100,000 people. Now, so it's okay running these programs, but it's actually beyond the capacity of the ratepayer. Unless the ratepayer is prepared to give something else up, because to do this and do it properly, I could see you could double the rate. This is a massive problem. And so now it doesn't matter whether it's talking about the refuse transfer station, it doesn't matter whether it's talking about footpaths, cycling, no matter what it is. For us, we provide infrastructure to cater for a large visitor population, but we bear the cost. So all I'd say, this needs support here, but needs widening, and maybe the tourist side needs moderating, because without external help, there's no point sending more people here. We've got more than we can deal with now.
Yep. So I think that absolutely take that point on board. So future funding, we hope, will become one of the, and when I say we hope, we've got to be careful that we don't influence the outcomes of the DMP, but future funding will be one of the biggest challenges that this region going forward. The person who actually managed to source the funds for the post-COVID funds was Kitty Goldman, who has a place in Wharekaupo, so she's well aware of the challenges. But to your point, we need that brought into the DMP, so we hope to see you there as part of this process. Yeah.
Barry?
Have you talked to the Economic Development People of Council?
The Economic Development Committee.
Well, the anyone on Economic Development in Council? I didn't see one on your list. And the reason why I'm asking is, you know, for instance, and I just agree with Tony, we've got the highest number of toilets for anywhere. We're the third highest for a local body in New Zealand, all locally funded. You know, we've got to get the stage. It's all very well bringing these tourists in, but unless we clip the ticket and clip the ticket well, we can't afford it.
Yeah.
We can't afford to put another sewage transfer station and all these other things. And that's a huge ask. And you said we're looking, it's here now. It is right here now, stretching our resources. Quite frankly, I don't think, and I've said this before, and I don't think we need to promote another tourist. They're going to come here because, as you said, it's a destination. I can understand on the plains, but right here, we are at capacity at certain times of the year. And the next step up in infrastructure, and you've identified that, it's going to huge, as Tony said, it's going to be huge ratepayer costs.
Yep.
So we've got to be very
both those points. Yeah, we need you at the community consultation meetings, which we'll come out to you with to make those clear.
I know Deli's got a question, and I can see Lorna's got her hand up as well. So please.
So that's fantastic, Hadley, and I'm so delighted to see it moving into the management space, because I actually think some of the comments that the councillors are making are around how we manage the people who are coming here rather than trying to get another million a year per summer. I really love the thread of kaitiakitanga, manaakitanga, all of those things being incorporated into your program. love the fact that we're going to work together on that, because we've even talked about things like getting plastic bottles in the Correspondence Peninsula completely. And to that end, working through our infrastructure teams, having potable water available in Coromandel, Hauraki towns for people to refill and reuse. So I think there is a lot of things that we can work with collectively, rather than focusing on bringing more people, but absolutely managing the numbers that we're dealing with. But I like the direction, the change of direction, if you like, the way you've gone into management rather than promotion. Appreciate it.
Right, I'm just going to ask Lorna, see she's got her hand up.
Hello, Lee.
Thanks, Rika. Good morning, everybody. Just to Murray's question, yes, we from the Economic Development Arm are working with Hadley's team. We're part of the stakeholder and advisory group with the destination management plans. In terms of the management of tourism, so you're well aware there's been, many rounds of the Tourism Infrastructure Fund where we've tried to plead our case around getting additional funding from the government to manage a lot of our infrastructure assets. And the next sort of stage we're also doing, and Mayor Sandra's getting across this, is about lobbying about that population allocation model and how we're unfairly disadvantaged around that. So that's another plug that we're pushing at the moment. And I think probably the other thing to be clear about is with the tourism numbers, and Hadley can testify to this, the majority are domestic, and they are, from our nearest regions, from Hamilton, Waikato, Auckland. So it's about, I guess, as well, changing the culture of when people come here, the experience they have, and acknowledging and appreciating why the Coromandel is special, and keeping it that way.
Thanks, Lorna. Were there any other questions for Heather?
I'll just make a comment.
One last comment.
My last comment is the Tourist Infrastructure Fund, for some of this turning external funding, is not the be all and end all. Because if you take, like, replacing toilets, for instance, Stockwater Beach, the ratepayer still bears the depreciation cost down. So it still comes back to the ratepayer. And a lot of people don't realise that. So just because you get a whack of money here, it has a kickback on the ratepayer at the back end. And just be aware of that.
Yeah. Look, I could go into every single point that's been made here, but I don't think it's the time.
I don't know.
It's not the right forum,
I
unfortunately.
just make the comment.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming. I agree. I like this new direction of management, destination management.
Yep.
It's a great way forward. Thank you. And
Just finish that it's about us. It's not about
yes,
Destination Coromandel. It's about all of us together. So as I mentioned, we're not going to influence anything. We're just part of the discussion to help facilitate and lead the outcomes.
okay.
Cool.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming in.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Safe travels.
All right. Now I have a mover and a seconder for, sorry. Sorry, are you here for public forum?
No, I'm just observing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mover and seconder for public forum, please.
I've moved.
Thank you, Delly. Seconded by Tony. All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? None carried. Okay. Any items not on the agenda? No. Any conflicts of interest? No. All right. Item 1.5, minutes for confirmation. That's on page 3. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Murray, seconded by Delly. All those in favour?
I
can't, I wasn't at the meeting.
Opposed? None.
Good point, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Carried. That takes us to our next item, which is our correspondence report, item 2.1 on page 12. Mover and a seconder to receive the report, please.
I'll move.
Delly, seconded by
Second.
Bill. Thank you. Any discussion? No, I just have this one. Should this be in our correspondence report? Someone's opened it. It's a letter of thank you from Alison. I just picked it up yesterday.
Okay, so let's have that. It just says to the community board, thank you all for your letter of congratulations on my receiving an award in the New Year's honours. I was so pleased to hear from you, and your kind and generous comments are much appreciated. The community board plays an important role in Whitianga, and I want to take this opportunity to say how grateful I have been to have had your support for projects I've been involved with. My award is a reflection of a combined community effort. My warmest good wishes to you all for the remaining months of this term. Ngā mihi nui, Alison Henry.
Lovely.
Yes, thank you.
So we will make sure that's captured.
Yes.
Oh. That's my recast.
Yeah, it came a long time ago. So-
Yeah, but it was just, that was already stamped and it was sealed at reception for me.
Okay,
So anyway,
we'll have a conversation with reception about.
okay,
how we deal with that.
thank you. So that was correspondence reports. We've got a mover and a second. All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So item 2.2, which is the request for funding for the archaeological survey at Matarangi on page 16. Mover and a second for the report.
I'll move.
Are you receiving the report or approving the funding? Do both.
Okay,
Receiving.
I was going to receive the report.
Yep. Check that.
Dally and Murray,
And discuss.
let us have some dialogue.
The land in question, or some of it, is owned by the golf club. Some of it is owned by council.
Not in this instance.
This is
So
the
who
land.
owns the land in
It's-
question?
It's private land.
Private land,
Yeah,
okay. That requires a bit of thinking, doesn't it?
So my.
sorry, Murray had
Murray, okay.
initially and then Dally.
Two questions. One, what have we got in the discretionary fund?
Uncommitted balance of 18,000.
18,000.
80,000. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that fund, I take it's the restoration down at the end where they've had all the erosion.
Yes.
And I think even though that's private land, Bill, I think it's a worthy community project that we should support.
So that was basically what I was going to say. So, you know, regardless of the context around how we've supported Matarangi and other matters and with other funds, because it's an archaeological survey, I think it's for the greater good.
Yeah.
And I'm in favour of approving that request for funding.
If there is some archaeological interest there, does that affect any development in the future? And if so, who pays?
I don't know. That's what the.
Private land.
That's
This is
what
what the archaeological,
I think where it is, because I walk around there at low tide.
I'm not familiar with the sites.
No. So just to give you a visual, I walk around there at low tide, at least sort of about once a month. It's a great walk.
Mhm.
So it's at the end of one of the tees, you know, so it's virtually golf course right up to the sand. And that's the area that they're talking about. So because we're about to undergo some remedial work on trying to save the land that's falling into the sea, I think they need to get this archaeological survey done so that they can ensure that they're restoring in an appropriate manner.
Sure.
So
Heather, did you want to?
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, it's your report.
So basically, you know, as you know, they have their idea for the restoration plan with the Greek Jinx method, which is for the private land. And in getting that started, they've discovered this substantial midden. And so because of finding that midden, they've really had to step back under Heritage New Zealand rules and get that archaeological report. And it's something that they hadn't anticipated, rightly or wrongly. So they hadn't anticipated that, and they've gone straight away and done the right thing and engaged, got a quote from the archaeologists. They've actually had them on site already as part of that.
Who was they, Heather?
Sorry, Matarangi Ratepayers Association.
Okay.
So the letter attached there is Mark Bedford, the chair,
So
and the quote.
essentially that's the reason, is because this was something that they hadn't anticipated. Yes, their request.
And I think they've done the right thing. I think they should be applauded that they've actually ceased their plans and sought that support from the right organisation.
Did you have anything that you wanted to add, Tony?
no, it's really set, agree.
Yep, okay. So is the feeling to support to the full tune of 4,110 or to support half or?
It has to be done because they can't go any further without it. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I support the lot because at the end of the day, they've used that for public space.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's public good. I would say they could turn around and say, no one else is ever walking around here again unless they go on the beach. So I think it's a strong element of public good. And $4,000 to me is not
No, it's not the end of the world.
a great sum of money.
Really conscientious about it, which is really good to be applauded.
Okay, so changing the resolution 0.2 to approves the amount of?
Yes.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Job done. Is that tidy enough?
So Murray's still happy to second the full approval.
Sorry,
Well, you received it and then.
and then you've got another motion for the,
Yeah, for the, so you're happy to second the second motion?
yeah,
Okay. That's why I was checking, just making sure.
Are we having to stay masked up or are we able to?
As we do have the public in the room, we do need to wear our masks unless.
Sorry.
we can,
Sit outside the door again.
Unless Glenn would like to.
Yeah.
Is that okay? You can take your wheelchair.
I'm happy to sit outside the door again.
oh, the couple you carry.
Can't we just?
No?
I think it's fair.
I've shared meetings with folks without masks over the past few weeks.
Yeah. The mayor comes to a council meeting without a mask, for goodness sake, can we all sit round?
Can
Well, it's external, yeah.
So Glenn, are you happy for us to be unmasked?
I am, and I'm double vaxxed and boosted, so.
So you're ecstatic.
I'm
Thank you. They are horrible.
All right, so we'll.
Sorry to cause you trouble, but I'm sick of the darn thing.
quietly in the corner.
Good on you. Don't breathe too heavily.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 3.1, on page 21 is the Mercury Bay Cycleway Development Project.
Yep.
And we have Ed on the line. Morning, Ed, and George, or just Ed?
Good morning, all. It's just me, I'm afraid. George is out doing inspections.
Okay, fantastic.
Hello, Ed.
May I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report, please?
Oh, no.
Thanks, Deli, seconded by Bill. Right, so this is very exciting and significant, I think.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, it is when you see the budget.
Yeah.
Is everybody to speak to the report?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, if I can take the report as read. George has led on the project and has been liaising with the various people in the Mercury Bay Cycle Group. And as a result of that, we've developed this proposal. It doesn't address all the issues that the cycle group wish to be considered, but it addresses the main proposals and creates a framework for a cycleway serving the school at the bottom of the plan, going into town and serving the majority of the residential estates that we can get to within budget. We've looked at options for construction of suitable cycleways, taking examples from other areas around New Zealand and also actually from other countries across Australia and Europe, and have come up with the three options that are proposed there. They've then been priced. Option one, which is the on-street cycleway, is obviously the lowest value or lowest cost, and provides the best cost benefit for the provision of the cycleway, but there are other options that could be considered. In particular, option 3, which is the off-road cycleway. That would have to be constructed to an urban standard because it would also be a shared footpath system, and it's considerably more expensive. So, taking into account the budget provisions that we've got available, our recommendation would be to go to option 1. That obviously has issues that it does create the need to exclude parking along those routes, which will be a contentious issue, I've got no doubt. But if we go with option 1, I don't see an option. I don't see a way of avoiding that. So happy to take any questions.
Yeah, just, are we able to park on the berms here? Do we have a bylaw that stops us parking on berms like they do in Auckland?
There is no bylaw that prevents parking on berms. It's all road reserve.
Okay, Delhi.
I'm just going to float something that might not be very popular, particularly with people who cycle all day long. You know, I was talking to Rika earlier, and there's places like the Baptist Church and Cook Drive that there's just a sea of cars on both sides of the road because they don't have any facility for people to park anywhere, as opposed to the Crossroads Church, which has got a massive car park. So thinking about like the lanes that you have in Auckland, that between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. there is no parking in those cycle lanes, but during other times, like at the weekends, people are allowed to park on the side of the road. Now that won't make people like Anna Horn and the cycle group very happy because they cycle all day long, but I'm just wondering how we can accommodate the safety of the school children in particular without limiting parking at 24/7.
I think it's a good point.
Thank you.
If I can, the cycle lanes in Auckland are based around commuter routes.
Yeah.
So what you're describing is a commuter route restriction. It's perfectly acceptable to introduce that in relation to the cycling that we can foresee serving the school. I honestly do not see that there's an issue there, but you're quite correct. If we institute a limited time cycle route, there's a potential then that it will not be used outside of the school hours, and that people will basically continue to cycle on the road. Now, the fact is they do that at the moment. The cycle lane it provides a recognised route for people. If there is a parked vehicle in that cycle lane, which there potentially could be, people have a right of emergency access to the property. There could be ambulances, etc. That would force a cyclist into the traffic lane, and it is the cyclist's responsibility primarily to ensure that they do that safely. Also, the drivers have a responsibility to take into account the cyclist along there. It is a possibility. It's something that has not been requested by the cycle group, but it could certainly be introduced.
I'm sure they wouldn't be very happy. I'm just trying to look for a compromise.
Under option 2, I know Bill and Heather both have questions. Under option 2, would that allow for parking on the opposite side of the road?
That could allow for parking on the opposite side of the road, yes. What you would have then is a situation where you have 2 vehicle lanes, one in either direction, neither of which has got a wide shoulder. So any vehicles parking in one lane would then cause an obstruction on that lane, requiring the traffic to move into the other lane. That's a feasible solution. It does have an added benefit that it creates a form of traffic calming by reducing vehicle speeds, because vehicles have to give way to each other. So it does have that benefit. It is more expensive than option 1, but it is a viable option if that's acceptable.
Okay. Now, Bill had a question and then Heather.
The footpaths are used extensively by all sorts of people. My understanding is that the police don't like people riding bikes on the footpaths. What's the current situation with that?
All right. The current situation is we've got no bylaw to prohibit people riding cycles on the footpath.
Yes.
But it does create a risk to pedestrians and to foot traffic, shall we say.
Yeah.
Cyclists can impact with pedestrians and obviously people with pushchairs.
Yeah.
The current footpaths that we have are generally too narrow to be considered to be shared paths and would require improvement if that was introduced. If we introduce that, it will encourage people to ride on the shared path, as it would be then at that point. There is an issue which is raising its head in other areas as well, the use of electric bikes and electric scooters. They would also be able to use those shared paths, and they are quiet and they are higher speed with higher mass. So they do create more of a safety issue. But at the moment, there's no national legislation on that, and we would, if we wanted to prohibit that, we would have to think about introduction of a local bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a comment to Alan and Delhi, that's certainly something my first thought was the church situation. But I'm looking at page 29 and where area 1 is, that starts at the Joan Gaskell Cook Drive roundabout, so it doesn't go as far down as the Baptist Church, just as, you know, certainly not this iteration that I'm seeing, and whether that would happen later, I will be over to Ed's team, but as it stands at the moment, it doesn't impact on that property.
Okay.
Yeah. I had another question that was around consultation with the wider community. What would we need to do? Would we need to do consultation? Is this significant in its impact?
My understanding is this is locally significant in that it introduces traffic restrictions along a large section of road. The council's significance and engagement policy isn't clear on the actual requirement for consultation on this, but my feeling is, and I believe this is recommended in the report, that this is something that we'd ask the community board for guidance on. If you feel that this is something that requires significant engagement on a local basis, then we can certainly do that. That would obviously delay the introduction of the cycle lanes, but it is something that could be done.
Lorna, I see, thank you. I see you've got your hand up. And maybe
Yes, I have.
Oh, you do.
I would also be recommending absolutely that there would be some community engagement and letting people know about it. So we'll work with the board and with the roading team to make that happen.
Tony, thanks, Lorna.
Mine's a general comment. In my mind, all of the roads in Mercury Bay are built almost to the minimum standard in terms of width.
Yes.
And so it doesn't matter what road you're going down. If you're driving up on Buffalo Beach Road and there is one cyclist with a car or a truck going in the same direction or coming the other direction, someone needs to be pretty careful about who gives way to who. So it's already, for me, the roads are simply not designed to cater for vehicles and cyclists. But however, the thing was about berms, so we do have, in many of these places, quite big areas of road reserve. And I know we have greater cost. Now, what is the option then to say, well, we're going to widen the footpaths and have, and I appreciate again, the guy that's biking will get onto the pedestrian bit, the guy that's walking will get onto the biking bit, but to get them off the road altogether onto increasing the width of the footpaths and putting signage there to indicate what is for cycling and what isn't. But it's a bigger problem that, like, there's a lot of other issues with this that it's easy if you want to promote it actively. But people coming in and out of their driveways, we've heard, we're a tourist destination. When people have their visitors, not every house is set back far enough to have visitors park in their driveway. So they end up parking on the berm whether we like it or not, and they end up parking on the footpath whether we like it or not, and they park on the road where they can park. So I hear the argument about roads are built for driving on and not parking on. But I can assure you, the public consultation for me will be the bottom line, because people coming in and out of their driveways are not hearing an electric bike that's coming down the road, who are not thinking about me coming out of my driveway, and they haven't a yarn to the guy they're driving with. I just think there are bigger safety issues, and I appreciate the work that's gone into it, and I appreciate it as a cheap option. The other one I'd also say is we're talking about the plan with Joan Gaskell Drive. So that was a road built by Hoppers as part of their structure plan, invested in council, so it's ours. And I'd say if it's catering for cyclists coming out of their structure plan, then maybe there's a contribution has to come out of there, because had this been the case 20 years ago, certainly the road would have been designed with cyclists in mind. So I think there's a lot of other things to be thought about, but whatever happened, this would need wide public consultation to me, because there are just too many moving parts.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's public consultation too. I can see fish hooks and all of that, and you know, dare I say it, there's too many oldies, and I'll put myself in that category because I don't get any criticism. You know, I followed some wobbling down the road the other day, and it's dangerous, and they don't use the sense to keep off some of the very narrow roads.
Well, this is going to address that problem, isn't it?
Yeah, but I said they don't use the sense.
Yeah.
If they had any sense now, they wouldn't be on those roads, but they want to be on those roads. And, you know, some of them, they just think we should go and bike anywhere we want.
Yes.
It won't address it. So let's get down to public consultation.
Just to bring up an issue that I found on the Hogan Path, which is extremely popular. Lots of people there and lots of cyclists, and most of the cyclists don't know where their bell is. And the number of times people have complaining that they didn't know there was someone behind them, which way did they jump when they see them? So a shared cycle and pedestrian situation worries the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Haven't had any major accidents, to be fair, but I hear what you're saying. I had, I had, there was one, Jodie Costello's partner husband was knocked over, but that was by an electrified scooter or something.
Yeah, the same thing, David. Anything that is shared, there are risks. Have you seen the speed of some of those batteries?
Absolutely, I'm not arguing with you at all.
Okay, so as an option.
Can I just say something?
Sorry.
This is just, from what I can see from this plan, is just a stage one of a very smallish area of town. So almost, you know, like we're talking about consultation, it's only affecting a limited amount at this stage. So it could almost be almost like a test case in some ways.
Apart from the fact that, if you're driving, if you come from my place, thinking you're going to go to the supermarket, and you, for whatever reason, turn off down Surf Street and go down Cook Drive. So Cook Drive is a major thoroughfare through town,
yes,
whether we like it or not. People go down there because it's actually, frankly, safer than going down Buffalo Beach, which has more people moving over it, more cyclists moving over it, more heavy traffic moving over it. And so, yes, it is only a small place, but when you actually get there, there's a significant amount of traffic going through there. So I would want to be consulted on that myself, because that's how I go to the supermarket.
Absolutely. I'm just saying that the portion that's showing, isn't it? It's just one end of Cook Drive.
Yes. So would we want the consultation to cover all three options, or is option 3 just off the table because of the cost?
Yeah.
And we're looking at options 1 and 2?
I think so.
And we talk, you know, and I see this as not only consultation with those landowners or the people that live there, but a full page ad in the paper that just sort of says, look, this is what we're proposing, and get the dialogue happening and get people to, you know, come back to us so that they can see the visuals and they can see. So Ed, does that give you a steer as in terms of a way forward? So consulting on options 1 and 2?
Certainly, if that's the board's recommendation, that's what we will do.
And also, and not just with the landowners, but also sort of the wider community. But you guys will know how to consult, and we don't need to tell you how to do that.
Change the resolution.
Yes, so we need to look at that we receive the report and requests or support consultation around options 1 and 2.
Yep.
Yep.
I've got requested words. public consultation be undertaken on options 1 and 2.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
And remove the endorsing.
Yes. So do we need another mover and seconder for that new resolution?
If Deli and Bill are happy to.
You
Yep,
happy?
I'm happy
Bill,
with that.
happy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, carried. Thank you, Ed. Right, that takes us to item, we're happy to keep going?
Yep.
A cup of tea, yep. 4.1, which is your work program. And we do have an additional, that's on page 39, additional one-page project on a page came through this morning.
Oh,
I filed it somewhere really safely.
I didn't put it out.
And Andrew is online. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning to everyone. Yeah, so you've got the work programme and the one-page updates on the status reports within the agenda. Any questions?
I had a question, Andrew, about when we're going to share publicly and let people know about the detailing around the new waste transfer station.
13th of July,
30th of July.
yes. That's when Anna Stevens, the solid waste manager, will provide council with a report, and further to a value management session that we had last Friday with the design team and the solid waste, our solid waste team. The layout is being updated at the moment. It was discussed with the resource recovery group yesterday, I believe. I wasn't at that meeting. So it's been modified now, but I think the meeting in July would be the date when we'd have a firm and more detailed, which I think is what you're looking for, layout of the site.
Yeah, I'm just more sort of wanting to let the public know. I mean, it could be a broad sweeping overarching sort of
This is in the pipeline.
this is what the new site will look like. Well, you know,
where it is.
where is it? Yeah, how will you access it? That
How
sort
it'll
of
be
stuff.
It's high interest.
Is it?
It's interesting point.
Well, it depends what level of detail you want. You could use the current layout that you've seen that we looked at on site. It's being updated at the moment further to last Friday's VM session, and I would probably expect something to come out earlier than July, but that's what I discussed with Anna. If you wish it to go earlier than that, then we could probably give it to you on the 15th of June, which is your June community board meeting date.
Yeah, I think that would be good. And I was thinking a general, even a board reception that sort of has a big loose concept plan like we saw.
We can
So
do that.
Start getting their heads around this.
And we're already spoken to, in particular, Peter Abramson, who owns properties adjacent to the site. And we've suggested to him that we have a bit of an open day on the site on the 30th of July. Possibly we could do it before that, to tell everyone in the area, the neighbours, for want of a better description, of exactly what we're doing. So we can do that. Yeah, it depends on it depends on the level of detail that you wish to have. Okay, the design team are working at the moment on predominantly the Three Waters work that we could get priced and start on as soon as possible, and I'm very keen on that. That would form part of the layout. But If you wish it to be before July, I can make that happen.
Yeah, I think certainly before July, that would be.
Very high level, I'm saying, it doesn't have to be to the square inch. This is basically saying, basically drive at one end and drive out the other end, and there are two-way bridges and not one.
Yep.
And we will be collecting waste in different bits, and we are going to be looking to maximise recycling.
Well,
And
let's agree.
what we're looking at today will inevitably change a bit by tomorrow, and then once it's built and open, inevitably in 5 years' time it'll change again. Yeah, we won't build it with 40,000 people today, but
Okay.
sure as I'm sitting here, we'll be thinking about 40,000 people in 20 years' time.
What I will do is, through the chair, what I will do is speak to WSP, get a date this month for an updated layout, and I think that's probably get it by the end of the month, and then I'll circulate it to the members of the community board. You can have a look at it. If you're happy with it, out it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, as Tony said, just an overarching high level. You can see that, you know, this is what's going to be there. Hey, if you're just doing recycling in blue bags, you don't even need to enter the whole facility sort of thing.
And I think the overarching goal really, you know, that's happening in other areas is that you've got this full car when you arrive there, but by the time you get to the landfill at the end of the process, you might only be dropping a kilo of stuff in. So it's that minimisation, even in graphics, if you've got someone who's good at graphics saying the aim is to really reduce, so there's all these different options of getting rid of your solid waste.
Wow. Thank you. We'll work on that.
Let people get excited.
All right, thanks, Andrew. I appreciate that. Anything else for the work program?
It's just, this is on it, just to make sure everyone understands this will be a district cost.
Thank you, Tony.
Well,
We don't laugh. I'm not laughing.
because
No, I'm.
when I look at it, this is a significant problem and a significant development to come. And I don't think that we'll get away with this with the cheap option. I think it's bigger than that. And so we have to understand that.
Water is a district cost.
And this will be a district cost, and therefore we probably as a community board should understand what is being proposed, and if we think that it's going to be fit for purpose, and then the discussion, because it's money, is intense.
Okay.
And
that's
it's a
still
priority.
a plan on a page there, Andrew. You're looking a bit confused. That's the one Tony's holding up.
I'm sorry, Tony. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to.
Well, we had this one arrive early this morning,
What is that?
and the
It's the stormwater plan on the page.
I've not seen
For the
that.
Brook Drive, Boston area.
Mohammed has written it, so.
Oh, here we go.
Bruce.
Good morning, board.
Okay.
Bruce can talk to it.
trust
I
you.
like-
Voting in the
Been there the whole
background.
time, he's been watching incognito.
I like to keep my staff guessing, so I gave
Yeah,
Andrew
well done.
no update. Yeah, so no, true story on that one is that that's been looked after by Kevin Brown, our water services manager, and Mo, our infrastructure manager. So so the team will quickly put that one together. I think that was one that was requested last time, and I graciously accepted a fourth or fifth plan on a page to be presented to the Mercury Bay Community Board. So there it is. And yeah, I missed the question. Apologies, Councillor Fox. What was the question about that?
Oh, I was just saying,
Statement, really?
this is a district cost.
Yes.
So from our point of view, important that as a community, we understand that where this lands will solve the issue and solve it in the long term.
Yeah.
And all I've suggested is that 270,000 is unlikely to be the answer.
Yeah.
And 13 million is probably unlikely to be the answer. It'll be probably nearer 13 than 270.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said in the, I think like they've covered in the report, the detailed analysis or assessment still being done, but you're probably right. You know, normally with those kind of projects, we'll end up somewhere in the middle of that, you know, try not to land at either end. So yeah, so definitely the team are on it. have a lot more detail coming back to you in July, I think is what they had said on there.
The question one probably then of you, Bruce, is in terms of our annual plan process. This won't be ending up in that. This will be probably further out.
Correct.
But what that lands up in a long-term plan. And I just need to make sure that doesn't slip through the cracks here.
Yeah.
Because it's a sizable chunk of money.
It is. It is. And you'll see in the report, the team have said that, there's the three options. There's an out of cycle approval through council, annual plan for not the one we're currently doing, but the following one, or the long-term plan. So I think we'll have a bit more information and a bit more of a steer on which way we need to go once we get to July and we've had the options assessed properly, and also the dollar figure. That'll drive us considerably as to which planning process we put it into.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Bruce. Kelly.
I'm just hoping, Bruce, not shooting the messenger, that there is an opportunity for some reflection in the team about how this has got to where it is and how the planning department has signed off on subdivisions that have exacerbated stormwater issues. It would warm the cockles of my heart to think that everyone might sit around the table and think, how do we avoid this happening again? Because this will put a burden on the ratepayers at a district level.
Yeah, that's a good point. And definitely through the chair, the teams definitely do reflect and go through a lessons learned process. It is an unfortunate situation, an incident. It's not something that's happening all the time, so it's not a systemic issue, in the way that things are being done through the planning and engineering process. But you're right, Dally, it is something we definitely want to learn from and make sure these things are, we're doing a lot better job as we move forwards, every day, really.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. Was there anything else on our work program? I think you boys got off lightly today.
I had a wee growl.
All right, thank you. So
Thank
just
you.
a mover and seconder to receive those reports.
I'll move.
Moved, Tony, seconded by Bill. All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? None, carried. So that takes us to item 4.2, which is our action schedule. Any comments or conversation here? Sorry, I need a mover and a seconder for the report.
Seconded.
Delly and Murray, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay.
I was going to.
Oh, sorry.
Very quick.
I was looking around.
How long until we get an update on the Otama tree situation, which seems to be dragging on miserably?
Bruce is back.
Quite frustrated. You didn't get off lightly at all, Bruce.
Lucky I didn't sign off. I never. So an update on that. I have flicked a quick email out to the board this morning, actually, on that one. We have regulatory and operations staff meeting this afternoon to look to conclude that issue. So the investigation has been going for a while. We have had some challenges around resourcing and staff away on extended sick leave, but people are back on deck now. So 3:30 this afternoon, we're meeting as a team to work through that issue. So as soon as we've got through that, we'll be providing updates back to the board and to the parties involved.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Will an update be given to her worship, because she was on the phone this morning? She's had correspondence, so I take it she will be included in the loop of that this afternoon.
Yeah, she will be. And the email that I've sent out just about an hour ago or half an hour ago went to the board and the mayor. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Anything else for the action schedule? No. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Carried. Right. That takes us to our members' reports. Who would like to kick things off? Phil.
I've had apart from niggles and occasional phone calls, and nothing serious to report.
Seems very quiet out there.
Yeah, for me anyway.
Tony?
The only one was in regard to the stuff we got last week with the flooding at Wharekāhau. So I've had two residents ring me up who live there and oversee this and have done for 20 years, one of which bought the house that Doug Bourne built. And part of the problem is on private land, but part of it is on reserve land. And what they're saying to me is, there's an issue with the regional council or somebody about getting machinery into the area to clean it out. So all they say is, every time it floods, if a half a dozen of them go down with their shovels and dig the stuff out, it's like pulling the plug out of the bath, the water disappears that fast. So all I'm just asking is saying, that is what I'm hearing. I've sent that to contacts to Ed. Ed was going to send it to NZTA. And I think maybe we need to get our heads around it to say that you just can't flood something for the sake of not putting a digger onto a bit of land for whatever reason. So it seems to me that the solution is simple if we look for a simple solution and don't look for every reason why you can't do it. So I've got those contacts, but I've certainly sent them to.
Yeah, I saw the email that.
Yeah, and
The store lines and Matarangi.
and the people I know will happily meet and they'll happily march them down to the road to say, every time this thing fills up, empty it, and you don't have a problem. So that's, but apart from that, I think it's been reasonably quiet of late too.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, yes,
It's there.
Yeah, good morning again. I can confirm I've sent those details on to the transport agency. They're looking at contacting the gentleman to see if the issue can be resolved that way. The understanding I've got from the agency is that the issue relates to a section of land that's in the ownership of a gentleman in America who's actually not responding to any emails. I've been talking with the agency about this, and there do seem to be methods within the various pieces of legislation for treatment of emergency or continued issues. But as Councillor Fox says, this does require the regional council to get on board with the transport agency to address it and consent it. So the agency, I understand, are now talking to the regional council about this to see what they can do to resolve that issue.
I'll be in Thames on Hamilton on Monday at the regional transport meeting, and happy to raise that again there. But knowing where this is, I can assure you the problem is as simple as a small digger going in there and fixing it. Why don't, like, I just don't, like, these things just get beyond me. Like, it is a simple measure to fix it. And when people say, if 6 of us go down to the shovel edge and dig a bit of stuff out, the water disappears and we have no flooding, then someone needs to get their head around that.
But it's a council or council.
Well, it doesn't matter. The things come to us.
It does matter. It does matter because if it's NZTA, it's being done. If it's council, which I understand it's not, then why say to the public that we should be doing it? Why should it be our ratepayer?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we know what causes the problem and we know how to fix it. Someone needs to go and get the agencies that are in control of it.
Yeah, well, that's what he's done.
To action it.
Well,
We've already been 10 years waiting.
right.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Murray.
Madam Chair, can I ask what we're doing about St John's? Because I'd like to see us, and knowing that site and knowing where it is, I would like to see us give that our blessing now to go forward. And I don't see why we can't do it at this meeting.
We can just create a resolution, can't we?
No, hang on, don't we have to have a paper to create a resolution?
Come from property, it will have to come from our property.
Yeah, my understanding is.
Well, I think we could, look, we can cope with bureaucracy. These guys want to get it through. I would like to move that this council supports what they propose to do and ask that a paper go forward from staff with this community board support to council ASAP. And we can truncate a month then, because that could go through. It wouldn't need to be August then. It could probably come, if someone got moving, it'd probably come to our June meeting.
So from my perspective, there was some information there about, there was that, but there was also an email trail and.
Yes, we've got that.
Well, I haven't seen that. So
I'm going to move a resolution. I'm going to move a resolution that this community supported and ask that staff get it to council ASAP with a supporting paper.
Expedite the process.
Supported in principle, because
Supporting in principle.
yeah,
Yeah, well, this
you've
was
got to see it on the land.
intention.
I've got one other
Because
thing.
otherwise bureaucracy would be held up.
Okay. So
There's nothing in there that stops it, Heather.
No, that's right. So my intention is literally to find out who has been dealing with it
Nicole.
and have a conversation with them.
Yeah, but if we get this done through, you can go and do the paper.
quickly? Yeah.
So
So.
I think everybody's in support in principle, so.
Yeah.
Whatever the fastest way to get a paper to council is,
Yeah.
with the support of this board,
Yeah.
we will leave that to Heather to.
So-
When's our meeting, next meeting? We've got a meeting.
So in the email.
15th of June.
Nicole has said,
15th of June, we're meeting.
No,
I
council.
don't know, council meeting off.
Can someone just
I can tell you.
in the council meeting?
so this is what Nicole has written. She said that she would like to give it to the community board for the 15th of June and then to council for the 9th of August.
Yeah, well, that's not, and we've already heard that that doesn't work with St. John because their funding is going to be in jeopardy this year. So if it can get staff, and it's only a simple matter, the what date?
28th.
28th of June. So there's no reason why it can't come to council and be signed off on the 28th of June. So let's ask that we support it. We'd like a paper to go forward for council for the 28th of June meeting, so it gets done.
So you could, so basically, when I talked to Nicole, I was saying that the board support it. Doesn't really need to come back to the board, then it can go directly to council and in her report, she can say that the community board have endorsed
But we want that at the 28th of June meeting,
Council meeting.
council meeting.
28th June meeting.
Yep.
And we're comfortable, there's nothing there that's gonna trip us up.
No, well, it's got to be the site plan and make anything, that's what I say, support it in
In
principle.
principle.
Yeah.
Because if someone overlays that onto the property and the infrastructure,
Doesn't work.
there may be an issue.
Yeah.
But basically, we want to say, we support it, get sign off, and then they can go to the
You don't
planning
want it to
committee.
come back to the board and then go
No.
to council, you want
No.
to say, look, we're
If it can be done, I want it said done.
Just go straight to council, and then it's in the planners and they can sort everything out.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought we were gonna have a conversation about longer term, because I think we do need to
Well,
think.
then I
about
think,
this
then
piece
I
of
think there's
land.
another resolution that we should note. And let's get that one out of the way too.
And we could put that into one of
Let's not
our.
forget that, because
Can
that space
Well,
out
Can we,
by the
can we,
helicopter.
excuse me, Madam Chair, can we put this motion first very clearly so we've got it?
Okay. Have we
To
had,
have a report relating to St. John's, in relation to St. John's, to be prepared for the June 2020, so 28th of June 2022 council meeting and the board support in principle the St. John request.
yeah, the request, maybe say for their building extensions.
So the building
Yeah, be a bit
Extension
more
of their
specific
facilities.
about what their request is.
No, just see this with them.
Plan attached.
Yes.
One other thing I didn't raise in mine, and that was the thing about bollards. So the government,
so, oh, sorry.
The
so that
government
motion
will-
passed, or-
No, so that's a motion by
Murray,
Murray, seconded
I'll see that.
by Tony. All those in favour, please say
Aye.
aye. Opposed? None? Carried. So that cleans that up.
Yes.
Thank you.
Then I think we should have a second motion that we re-examine the plans for Moawai,
Yes.
Barrett's Sheriff Block, and look to see if provision could be made available for a future St. John's station,
I think we should say for future emergency services
For future
station, because you don't know who's,
for future emergency
Yeah.
service. And let's do that and get that on the books, and then that can come back.
Yeah.
In a couple of months, it can come back and have a look.
just to have an audit of what land is out there really and what might be suitable.
And we might need some
I'm
stuff
prepared to move that.
around that to actually, give us a bit of a steer on what's
That's a bit of a
available and what we can move
conversation.
around.
Yeah,
And we would like that reported back by our July meeting.
certainly before the end of this term. Yeah.
Yes.
We could come back in our June meeting. There's nothing there, it just needs a plan and a look and
Okay, so that's
When did you want that reported back?
June meeting.
June if possible.
June community board
Doesn't
meeting.
need
It's
a
simple.
long time.
So simple.
Simple, easy peasy.
So that cleans up those two.
Do we move that? I'll-
Do we need to move that second?
Yes, I think we do.
Yep, okay, moved by Tony, seconded by,
Move by Murray, yeah.
I'll get a second, I'll
yeah, Tony seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? None carried. So that's those two.
Yeah.
So the bollards now, it seems to me that the government will legislate and provide some funding for people to be able to protect their businesses with bollards. All I'm just asking is for us, I don't know whether the right thing is on the footpath or outside, I don't know, that's not my issue. That when that happens, that we have a plan to say bollards can go here. So I'm not suggesting we get out on the day low marker and mark them out, that we have a plan so when it happens, we don't have to go through a period of consultation and take a year to make a decision about something to protect someone's business.
Heather and Ed, I see Ed's hand.
I'm the same with Ed.
Okay, Ed, hello.
Good morning again. We obviously this is an ongoing problem, but we've already published guidance on how to deal with bollards. This went onto the council webpage, I believe it was yesterday, so you may not have seen it. Basically, any bollard or any other form of protection can be installed at the cost of the shop owner in front of their property. If it's within the road reserve, it requires the consent of the roading manager to do so. And we will deal with every case on a site-by-site basis as a request comes in.
Okay, so we've got a process internally to deal with this.
Are there any design guidelines in terms of having something really ugly outside somebody's shop? Because of our street, the appearance of our streetscape.
There are no design guides, but part of the procedure we've installed is that nothing gets installed without consideration of the streetscape.
Excellent.
We're not going to have a line of galvanized steel bollards down the middle of Whitianga. That is not going to happen.
Brilliant, thank you, Ed.
Okay.
And just so for me though, so I get concerned, so I understand the road reserve, and we're going to be, I get concerned though when I see another layer of bureaucracy of it. What I want to see is, provided that the bollard meets this standard.
That's what he just said.
No, that's it.
Exactly what he just said.
No, it isn't. Any request, it's got to go back through them.
But they're excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So they'll eyeball them and make sure they're not absolutely hideous and ruin our streetscape.
Oh, I'll just wait and see. Well, that's right. I just see what'll happen.
Okay, Ed, thank you for that. That's great to know that council's all over that.
I haven't seen it.
Members' reports, you finished?
Yep.
Yeah.
Some feedback from the community about the proliferation of pampas and wild ginger around the place, including places like on the council berm on Centennial Heights. I did talk to Heather about the steps going down to Wharekaho, which is still with the developer and not out. So there was a bit of an RFS there to the developers, people to deal with some of the noxious stuff that's around. It's just looking really, it's looking awful. And there's a proliferation of these pest plants. I went to the Kuatunu AGM, the ratepayers, extremely frustrated. They really emphasised how frustrated they are about traffic calming measures and speed limits, and that they're just not getting any traction. They feel that they're not getting supported by the Community Board Council. It's been going on for about 30 years and they really want some guidance on how to make things happen more quickly. Also, sorry? Okay. So again,
not painting their own pedestrian crossing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But
would be a great place to start.
I am reporting the frustration at the meeting. The other thing that was really interesting, there was a really good discussion about the amount of walking and cycling going on. You know, the Matarangi people, for example, that bike into Kuatunu for a coffee on the weekends and vice versa. There's quite a significant and well-enjoyed walking and cycling path, which is not necessarily formed. Brent Page has been talking with Mark Bedford at Matarangi, and they're really keen to get something happening with the bluff. As we know, we've got that rock fall out there, which is quite significant and very dangerous. So it means that people have to walk up and over or bike the boomer or the Burma Hill, as they like to call it. There is a sense that there's some money out at Matarangi, that privately there are people, that's not something, you know, TCDC give us several million to build a swing bridge. But they're frustrated because Brent has been trying to convene a meeting with Bruce, and having another go. And they were also talking about establishing an incorporated society to help push the project to open up that walkway and cycle track. They would be looking for TCDC support, but not necessarily financial, but they just want to get that meeting together to look at how realistic some of their ideas are. Okay. So they're a frustrated community at the moment. But, oh, by the way, the minutes are on kuatunu.nz, their website, if you want to have a good look. Bruce.
Yes, good morning again. I didn't really have too much to say about that, apart from that we were trying to coordinate and have a meeting with Mark Bedford when he was here for hearings with Ed and myself. I'm not sure if they actually managed to link up with Ed, because Ed was running around busy as he is every day. But yep, no, happy to meet with them. But we are aware that the Bluff Road is a challenging site, and we have spent quite a lot of money on that in previous years. So we don't want to be wasting any money as we move forwards on that one. But I see Ed's got his hand up, so I'll probably stop talking and let Ed jump in.
I just want to make the point that they realise there's no money in the pot, and they have appreciated efforts that have been made previously and the engineering that's gone into it. They're looking for some guidance on how it can be community funded to get that pathway open.
Maybe should the three of you take this conversation offline? This isn't really the forum to sort of solve and share this. This is a members report. Did you have something you want to add? I was just
going to make a comment. There was some years back, and I can't remember how long, there was a whole design put forward with a spring bridge with all the DHE. It'll all be on file back there somewhere. So this is just reinventing the wheel all over again.
It's all been redone.
Maybe this is
Already been done, yes.
That's been done. It came out 2 weeks ago. So there's 3 options.
Yeah.
Walking, spring bridge,
Yeah, but
and mountain shelter. And I was going to say the mountain shelter's not so good idea because it's a greenback. And if it blows, it'll blow from the bottom and blow them straight into the sea. So
where is this?
So maybe it should speak.
Yeah, let have a whatever.
Oh, it's going back. All right. So we are going to solve this now.
Yeah, well, just quickly, because we offer
This is members reports, though.
To be fair, the boys do have great long corderos about things that get up there.
Let's go.
I'm a bit annoyed if I'm going to be cut short. Ed.
I'm just
Good morning.
Time for these conversations.
Right. First of all, unfortunately, I didn't meet Brent when he was available here, but subsequent to that, I've had a Teams conversation with Brent and with the Kuatunu Residents Association about the options. Tony is quite correct. Sorry, Councillor Fox is quite correct. We've already looked. Sorry, Ken. We've already looked at options there, and we've discussed those with both residents associations. They appreciate the issues that we've got in developing the options for the swing bridge that they've requested. We've discussed ways around the requirement to build it to NZTA specification because it will be a bridge within the road reserve, and we're now actually starting to form a group to look at the options to create a swing bridge at this location, which would form part of a cycle track around the coast that links basically all the way from Matarangi through Whangamata, potentially down to Whitianga as well. The residents associations are going to be speaking to Destination Correspondence about that to get the general feel for that as a tourist attraction. And we're internally looking at this as part of the Tracks and Trails initiative that's being run by council, which is, we've got another meeting for that scheduled for, I believe it's next Thursday. So it's an ongoing feast.
Awesome, Ed. That's
Thanks,
so
Ed.
good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. You might want to hang around. We might need you again. And Bruce is gone. Right. Was there anything else for your members' report?
No.
Nope, that was all. Very short and sweet from me. I did the opening of the netball courts, lots of great feedback. They've had 2 rounds of games now, and the courts are really, really good. Did a walkthrough of the new waste transfer site with Andrew Bowden, and I'm really impressed in terms of they've really sort of thought through how to move the traffic through and things like that. So it will be very exciting when we get to that stage. And just over the weekend, I drove the 309, and the Correspondence side is beautiful and graded and everything. And you get to the summit, and the Whitianga side is a big old pothole.
Oh,
Nearly lost me Highlander.
right.
So can we, I could probably do that. Request service.
This Christmas episode.
Yeah, okay, all right. That's it from me. So that's it. Is it?
Yep.
Yeah, all right. Meeting closed at quarter to.
Someone,
Oh, mover and seconder, the members' reports, Bill, Murray, thank you. All those in favour? Opposed? None, carried. Meeting closed. Thank you.